The child's blood was the wrong color. Captain Vera noticed it first, a thin crimson line across the girl's palm, where she'd cut herself on the broken edge of a supply crate. Human blood. Unmistakable. The child couldn't have been more than 7 solar cycles old, small and fragile in the cargo bay's harsh lighting, her dark eyes wide with fear as she clutched the wound to her chest. "Step away from the containers," Vera said quietly, her hand moving to the plasma rifle at her side. Around her, the other royal guards tensed, their armor humming with readiness. The child didn't move. She stood frozen between 2 massive shipping containers marked with Earth's old colonial insignia, symbols that hadn't been legal to display in over a decade. Not since the Purge laws. Not since humanity had been declared a contaminated species. "I said step away." Vera's voice remained level, but her fingers tightened on the weapon. Behind her visor, she studied the girl's face. Pale skin, brown hair matted with grime, the skeletal thinness of prolonged malnutrition. Every indicator matched the profiles they'd been hunting for 3 years. The child took one trembling step backward, then another. Her lips moved, forming words too quiet to hear. "Louder," Vera commanded. "Please don't," the girl's voice cracked. "I'll go back. I'll hide better." Just don't what? Vera moved closer, her boots silent on the metal floor. The cargo bay stretched around them, empty except for the containers and the ship's low mechanical hum. They were in the outer section of the celestial carrier, the massive vessel that served as Queen Zythara's mobile throne, the most secure location in the known galaxy. And somehow a human child had infiltrated it. The girl's eyes darted toward the ventilation shaft above. A panel hung loose, barely visible in the shadows. "How long have you been aboard?" Vera asked. The child's chin lifted slightly, defiant, despite the terror radiating from her small frame. "I don't know. Lots of sleeps." "Weeks? Months? I don't know what those are." Vera felt something twist in her chest, an unfamiliar sensation that took her a moment to identify. Pity. She crushed it immediately. The law was absolute. Humans carried the decay, a genetic corruption that had nearly destroyed the Galactic Alliance. Every human found was to be eliminated on sight. No exceptions. No mercy. The Purge laws had been signed by every major species, including Queen Zythara herself. "What's your name?" Vera asked, though protocol didn't require it. Protocol required only confirmation and execution. Mara. "Where are your parents?" "Mara?" The child's face went blank. "Gone. Gone where?" "Just gone. Like everyone." Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm the only one left." Vera accessed her wrist display, running a quick scan. The biosignature confirmed it. Pure human DNA. No hybrid markers, no genetic modification. Impossible. The Purge fleets had swept Earth and every colony world. They'd been thorough, ruthlessly thorough. There shouldn't be any pure humans remaining, especially not children born after the Purge began. "Lieutenant Corps, seal the cargo bay," Vera said into her comm. "We have a contamination situation." "Acknowledged, Captain." The response came instantly, followed by the heavy clang of blast doors engaging throughout the section. Mara flinched at the sound, her small hands curled into fists. "You're going to kill me," she said. Not a question. A statement of fact delivered with the flat certainty of someone who'd already watched death take everyone they loved. Vera should have confirmed it. Should have raised her weapon and fulfilled her duty. The protocols were clear. The law was absolute. But something in the child's eyes held her frozen. A terrible understanding. An acceptance that no 7-year-old should possess. "How did you get past the bioscanners?" Vera asked instead. "I'm small." "I hide in the cold places. The machines don't look in the cold places." The cryogenic storage sections? Vera's mind raced. The child had been living in the ship's frozen cargo holds, moving through maintenance tunnels, surviving on stolen rations, condensation water. You'd freeze to death. Only if I stay too long, I count. When I get too cold, I find the warm pipes. I sleep there. A survival strategy born of pure desperation. The girl had spent months, possibly longer, navigating the carrier's most dangerous sections, avoiding patrols, evading detection systems, all while slowly starving. All alone. "The Queen must never know you're here," Vera said, her voice dropping lower. "Do you understand what that means?" Mara nodded slowly. If she discovers a human aboard her vessel, she won't just order your death. She'll execute everyone who failed to detect you. Every guard, every scanner technician, every officer in the security division. Vera paused. Hundreds of my people will die because you exist. The child's expression crumbled. Fresh tears cut clean tracks through the grime on her face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... I was just so hungry and the escape pod was breaking and I saw the big ship and I thought... Her words dissolved into shaking sobs. Vera's calm crackled. Captain Queen Zythara is requesting your presence in the throne hall. Immediately. The timing couldn't be worse. Vera looked at the crying child, at the blood still seeping from her palm, at the impossible choice now before her. Duty demanded execution. Protocol required immediate action. The law left no room for interpretation. But Mara was 7 years old, the last of her kind, alone in a universe that had declared her entire species an abomination. Captain? Acknowledge. Vera made her decision in the space between heartbeats. Acknowledged. En route. She lowered her weapon and grabbed Mara's uninjured hand. Listen very carefully. We're going to walk out of this cargo bay together. You're going to stay absolutely silent. If anyone asks, you're a hybrid worker's child. Do you understand? Mara's eyes went wide. You're not going to... Not yet. Maybe not ever, but that depends entirely on you. Vera pulled the child toward the exit, her mind already calculating routes, timing, and the 1,000 ways this could end with both of them executed. Now move! The blast doors opened. The throne hall awaited, and Captain Vera stepped forward into treason, a human child's hand clasped tight in her own. The throne hall stretched before them like a cathedral of ice and starlight. Queen Zythara sat elevated on her crystalline seat, her forearms folded in the formal posture of judgment, her segmented exoskeleton gleaming with bioluminescent patterns that shifted from blue to deep violet. Around her, the royal court stood in concentric circles. Advisors, diplomats, military commanders, all the power of the Galactic Alliance concentrated in one massive chamber. Vera felt Mara's hand tighten in her grip. The child had gone rigid, her breathing shallow and quick. Too quick. If she hyperventilated, if she drew attention, everything would unravel. Steady, Vera whispered, barely moving her lips. You're invisible. They don't see you because you're beneath their notice. Workers' children come and go. You're no one. They moved along the outer edge of the hall, following the designated path for lower-ranked personnel. Vera kept her posture perfect, her stride measured. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide the child, to find some way to undo the choice she'd just made. But she'd served in the Royal Guard for 15 cycles. She knew how to present calm when chaos churned beneath. Captain Vera. The Queen's voice resonated through the hall, a sound like wind through crystal caves. Approach. Vera's heart stuttered. She released Mara's hand and gave the child the slightest push toward a cluster of servants near the wall. Mara moved, her small form disappearing among the taller figures. Good. The girl had survival instincts. Vera climbed the steps to the throne platform, dropping to one knee in formal obeisance. Your Radiance. Report on the perimeter sweep. Queen Zythara's primary eyes fixed on Vera while her secondary eyes continued scanning the room. I've received concerning intelligence about potential infiltration. The words landed like ice in Vera's veins. The sweep is complete, Your Radiance. All sectors cleared. No unauthorized life signs detected. It was a lie. Her first direct lie to the Queen in 15 years of service. The words felt like poison in her mouth. Queen Zythara's bioluminescence pulsed once, a sign of contemplation. Commander Thex believes otherwise. He claims the bioscanners registered an anomaly in Cargo Bay 7 approximately 12 minutes ago. A brief signature quickly masked. Commander Thex stood to the Queen's right, his reptilian features arranged in what passed for satisfaction among his species. He'd never liked Vera, had contested her appointment to captain, had spent years trying to undermine her position. Now his moment had finally arrived. I personally swept Cargo Bay 7, Vera said, meeting the Queen's gaze steadily. The anomaly was a malfunctioning refrigeration unit. The temperature fluctuation triggered a false positive. I've already submitted the maintenance request. Convenient, Thex hissed. And the biosignature that matched human DNA markers? Also a refrigeration unit? Contaminated samples from pre-purge archaeological storage? They're scheduled for incineration. Vera kept her voice level, factual. The containers are clearly marked with hazard warnings. I assumed Commander Thex had reviewed the cargo manifest before raising alarms. The implication was subtle but clear. Thex had either failed to do basic research or was deliberately wasting the Queen's time. Either way, it made him look incompetent. Queen Zithara's segmented fingers tapped against her throne's armrest, a gesture Vera had learned to read over years of service. Annoyance, but not directed at her. Not yet. Commander, do you have evidence beyond a sensor reading that could have multiple explanations? Thex's jaw worked soundlessly for a moment. No, Your Radiance, but I recommend immediate investigation. Captain Vera has investigated. Unless you're suggesting my personal guard captain is lying to me? The Queen's voice dropped to a dangerous register. Of course not, Your Radiance. I merely... Then we're finished with this topic. Queen Scythara waved one hand dismissively. Captain, you may return to your duties. Commander Thex, you will personally review all cargo manifests and submit a full report on pre-purge materials storage. If I'm going to be interrupted with sensor anomalies, I expect them to be genuine threats. Vera rose, bowed, and descended from the platform. She didn't look toward where she'd left Mara. Didn't search the crowd. Any attention might draw eyes to the child. She was 3 steps from the exit when the scream cut through the hall. A servant had stumbled, dropping a tray of ceremonial glasses. They shattered across the polished floor in a cascade of crystalline fragments. And there, exposed in the sudden empty space, stood Mara. The child had been crouched behind the servant, using the woman's robes as cover. Now she stood alone, visible to everyone. Time seemed to crystallize. Vera saw it all unfold with terrible clarity, the court members turning, noticing the child, their expressions shifting from irritation to confusion. They saw a small figure, ragged and dirty, clearly not meant to be present, but they hadn't realized yet, hadn't understood what they were looking at. Whose child is this? Queen Scythara's voice carried across the hall. The servants looked at each other, heads shaking. No one claimed her. The silence stretched, became dangerous. Vera moved without thinking. Mine, your radiance. Every eye in the hall fixed on her. The Queen's bioluminescence flared bright, then darker. Yours, Captain? A ward. Recently acquired. I apologize for the disruption. She was instructed to wait in my quarters. The disobedience will be addressed. Vera walked toward Mara, her stride purposeful but not rushed. She reached the child and placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Up close, Vera could see how wrong this looked. Mara's features were too different from her own scaled appearance, too obviously not any recognized hybrid combination. Any bioscan would reveal the truth instantly. Bring her here. The Queen's command was absolute. Vera's hand tightened on Mara's shoulder. This was it, the moment where everything ended. She'd gambled and lost. Now they'd both pay the price. She guided Mara forward, climbing the steps once more. The child walked with surprising dignity, her chin up, her steps steady despite the trembling that ran through her small frame. Brave. Impossibly brave. They reached the throne platform. Vera positioned herself slightly in front of Mara, a protective gesture she couldn't suppress. Queen Scythara leaned forward, her primary eye studying the child with unsettling intensity. The hall had gone completely silent. Even Commander Thex seemed to hold his breath. "What's your name, child?" the Queen asked. Mara's voice came out small but clear. "Mara, your radiance. And how old are you, Mara?" 7 cycles, your radiance. The Queen's gaze shifted to Vera. She doesn't resemble you in any physiological respect. She's an off-world orphan. I claimed guardianship after her settlement was destroyed in a border raid. The lies came easier now, built on the desperate foundation of the first deception. I should have requested formal permission before bringing her aboard. The oversight was mine. Indeed. Queen Scythara extended one slender hand. "Come closer, child." Mara glanced up at Vera, seeking permission or perhaps reassurance. Vera gave the slightest nod. The child stepped forward, stopping just within the Queen's reach. Queen Scythara's hand moved to Mara's face, tilting it upward into the light. She studied the child's features with an attention that made Vera's blood run cold. Those ancient eyes missed nothing. Saw everything. "Fascinating bone structure," the Queen murmured. "And these eyes, such an unusual color. What species produced this child?" The question hung like a blade. Vera prepared for the end, for the moment when the Queen's recognition would dawn and justice would fall. But Mara spoke first. "I don't know, your radiance. My parents never told me before they died. A tragedy." How did they perish? The ships came, with fire. Everyone ran, but there was nowhere to go. Mara's voice remained steady, but tears gathered at the corners of her eyes. Captain Vera found me after. She said I could come with her, that I'd be safe. The Queen's hand withdrew. She looked at Vera with an expression impossible to read. You offered safety to an orphaned child. That speaks well of your character, Captain. Relief flooded through Vera, so intense it left her dizzy. Thank you, Your Radiance. However, the single word froze the relief solid. This child cannot remain unexamined. We have protocols for all new arrivals aboard this vessel, especially those of unknown origin. She'll need full medical processing, genetic cataloging, and official documentation. Queen Zythara's gaze hardened. I'm sure you understand the necessity, given recent security concerns. A medical scan would reveal everything. The human DNA. Within hours, maybe minutes, Mara would be identified, and Vera would face execution for harboring her. Of course, Your Radiance, Vera heard herself say. When should I bring her to medical? Immediately seems appropriate. The Queen gestured to one of her attendants. Escort them both to the medical bay. Priority processing. The attendant stepped forward, and Vera felt the trap closing. No escape now. No more clever lies or lucky timing, just the inevitable discovery and the justice that would follow. She took Mara's hand again as they descended from the platform. The child's fingers were ice cold. They walked through the hall's massive doors, into the corridor beyond. The attendant led them toward the medical section, his pace brisk and efficient. Other guards fell in around them, an escort that felt more like imprisonment. Mara looked up at Vera. Her young face held an understanding far beyond her years. She knew what was coming, knew what the examination would reveal, and she knew what that meant for both of them. I'm sorry, the child whispered. Vera squeezed her hand. Don't be. Whatever happens, you deserved better than to die alone in a frozen cargo hold. Will it hurt when they kill me? The question punched through Vera's composure. She had to swallow twice before she could answer, No, I won't let it hurt. It was the only promise she could make, the only comfort she could offer. As they approached the medical bay's gleaming doors, Vera found herself hoping it was a promise she could keep. The doors slid open, revealing rows of diagnostic equipment and sterile examination chambers. Dr. Silvex, the ship's chief medical officer, looked up from her workstation. Her multiple eyes widened slightly at the sight of the escort, the captain, and the small human child who'd just walked into her domain carrying a death sentence written in her DNA. We have a new arrival requiring full processing, the attendant announced. Priority order from Queen Zythara herself. Dr. Silvex's gaze locked onto Mara, and Vera saw the exact moment the physician recognized what she was looking at. The doctor's expression went carefully, deliberately neutral. Of course, Dr. Silvex said, her voice betraying nothing. Bring the child to examination room 3. Captain Vera, you may wait in the observation area. I'd prefer to stay with her, Vera said. Protocol requires... The child is frightened and alone. I gave my word I wouldn't leave her. Vera held the doctor's gaze. Surely protocol can accommodate that. Dr. Silvex studied her for a long moment. Something passed between them, an understanding born of years serving together. The doctor had treated Vera's injuries countless times, had shared quiet conversations during long night shifts, had proven herself someone who valued life above blind adherence to law. Very well, but you'll need to remain behind the barrier while I conduct the examination. They entered the examination room, a circular space dominated by the scanning array at its center. Mara climbed onto the platform as directed, her small form dwarfed by the massive equipment. The attendant and guards remained outside watching through the transparent wall. Dr. Silvex activated the scanners. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing Mara's skeletal structure, organ system, cellular composition. The data scrolled across screens in cascading streams of information that would, within minutes, confirm the child's species beyond any doubt. Vera watched the doctor's face as she reviewed the results. Saw the subtle tightening around her eyes, the slight pause in her movements. Dr. Silvex knew. Of course she knew. The doctor touched a control panel, and the examination room's audio feed clicked off. The guards outside couldn't hear them now, though they could still see everything through the barrier. Captain, Dr. Ben Silvex said quietly, never taking her eyes off the displays. Do you understand what you've done? Yes. This child is pure human, unmodified, genetically impossible, and definitely illegal. The doctor's fingers moved across her controls, adjusting settings, manipulating data. The scan will complete in approximately 4 minutes. Once it does, the results will automatically upload to the central database. At that point, there will be no way to hide what she is. I know. They'll execute her. They'll execute you. They'll probably execute me for not reporting this immediately. Dr. Silvex finally looked up, meeting Vera's eyes. Why? Why risk everything for one human child? Vera looked at Mara, who sat perfectly still on the examination platform, her hands folded in her lap, waiting for her death with the patience of someone who'd already lost everything worth living for. Because she's 7 years old, Vera said simply. Because she's been surviving alone on this ship for months, hiding in freezing cargo holds, stealing scraps to eat, terrified every moment that she'd be discovered and killed. Because she's the last of her kind and she deserves to live. Because the law is wrong. The words hung in the sterile air. Treason. Absolute, undeniable treason. Dr. Silvex turned back to her screens. Her fingers danced across the controls with increasing speed. The law is absolute. The purge laws were signed by every major species. Humans carry the decay. They're a genetic threat to all other life. Do you believe that? The doctor's hand stilled. It doesn't matter what I believe. It's the only thing that matters. Silence stretched between them. The scanners continued their work, building an irrefutable genetic profile. 3 minutes remaining. I treated human patients, Doctor. Silvex said finally, before the purge. When I was young and still believed medicine was about healing, not enforcing policy, they were no different from anyone else. They bled, they hurt, they hoped, they loved their children. She pulled up a genetic sequence on the screen, highlighting specific markers. The decay was real, but it was never universal. Only certain bloodlines carried it. The purge didn't discriminate. It killed them all. Can you tell if Mara carries it? Dr. Silvex studied the data for a long moment. No. Her genetic sequence is clean. No decay markers. No corruption. She's perfectly healthy. The doctor's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She never needed to die. 2 minutes. Can you alter the scan results? Vera asked. To show what? Anything but human. A rare hybrid. An unregistered colony species. Something that would explain her appearance without triggering the purge protocols. Dr. Silvex pulled up a database of known species genetics. Her fingers flew across the interface, comparing sequences, searching for possibilities. It would have to be convincing. The genetic markers would need to align with her physical characteristics. If anyone runs a verification scan, they'll discover the forgery. How long would that take? Depends on who's suspicious. Days, weeks, maybe never if no one has reason to question it. 1 minute. Mara spoke from the platform, her voice small but steady. You don't have to do this. Either of you. I've been ready to die for a long time. I'm just glad I got to meet someone kind first. Vera felt something break in her chest. She crossed to the platform, ignoring the guards watching from outside, and wrapped her arms around the child. Mara's small body shook as she finally allowed herself to cry. Real tears. Not the silent survival tears Vera had seen in the throne hall, but the desperate sobs of a child who'd been holding terror inside for too long. I'm not going to let them kill you, Vera said into Mara's hair. Whatever it costs. Do you understand? You're going to live.
30 seconds, Dr.
Silvex made her choice. Her fingers moved with absolute certainty, rewriting genetic code, altering markers, fabricating a species profile that had never existed. She pulled data from 3 different rare colony species, blending their characteristics into something plausible, something that could explain Mara's appearance. Something that might, if luck and circumstance aligned, save the child's life. 10 seconds. Her name is Mara Vera now, the doctor said. My records will show you formally adopted her 3 standard weeks ago after rescuing her from a colony raid on Theta Carina I-4. She's a hybrid of Tyrellian and Kresh descent, rare but documented. The genetic profile will hold unless someone specifically searches for human markers. The scanner chimed. Upload complete. 5 seconds. The examination room door opened. The attendant stepped inside, followed by Commander Thex. The reptilian officer's eyes glittered with suspicion. Well, Thex demanded. What species is she, Dr. Silvex pulled up the fabricated genetic report, displaying it on the main screen. Hybrid. Tyrellian Kresh ancestry. Quite rare, actually. I've only seen 3 others in my entire career. Thex moved closer, studying the data. And you're certain? Commander, are you questioning my professional competence? I'm questioning why a hybrid child was aboard this vessel without proper documentation. That failure was mine, Vera said, stepping between Thex and Mara. An error I've now corrected. Thex's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Convenient. Very convenient. First a sensor anomaly in Cargo Bay 7, now an undocumented child appears in the throne hall. You seem to be having quite an eventful day, Captain. Some days are more eventful than others. Indeed. Thex leaned past her, studying Mara with cold calculation. Tell me, child, how long have you been on this ship? Mara looked to Vera, then back to Thex, like the doctor said. And before that? Theta Carina I-4. Until the raiders came. Described the colony. Vera's heart hammered. Mara couldn't possibly know details about a colony she'd never seen. One wrong answer, one impossible detail, and Thex would have his proof. But Mara spoke with quiet confidence. It was cold. Always cold. We lived underground because the surface was too frozen. There were blue lights everywhere, growing in the ice caves. They were beautiful. It was perfect. Theta Carina IV's bioluminescent ice caves were famous, exactly the kind of detail a child who'd lived there would remember. Where had Mara learned that? Had she overheard someone talking about it? Had she studied the colony before claiming it as her home? Thex's eyes narrowed. What did your parents do there? Everyone mind, the ice had minerals in it. Mara's voice wavered. I don't like talking about them. It makes me sad. Commander, that's enough, Dr. Silvex interjected. The child has been through significant trauma. Unless you have specific evidence of wrongdoing, I'd prefer to complete my medical evaluation without further interrogation. Thex held his position for a moment longer, then stepped back. I'll be reviewing all documentation related to this adoption, Captain, if I find any irregularities. You won't, Vera said with more confidence than she felt. The commander left, his suspicion rolling off him like smoke. The attendant followed, and finally they were alone again. Vera, Mara, and Dr. Silvex, 3 conspirators who just committed treason to save one child's life. Dr. Schmidt. Silvex began gathering medical supplies. She'll need proper identification cards, educational enrollment, habitat assignment. I can fabricate the medical history, but you'll need to handle the administrative documentation.
I will. Vera helped Mara down from the examination platform.
The child's hand found hers immediately, small fingers gripping tight. Captain? Dr. Silvex paused at her workstation. If this goes wrong, if someone discovers the truth, I won't testify against you. They'll ask me to explain how I missed identifying a human child. I'll tell them I was incompetent, that I made an error, that I failed in my duty, but I won't give them your name. The same for me, Vera said. If this falls apart, the fault is mine alone. You were deceived by a superior officer. We're all deceived, Dr. Silvex said quietly. The whole galaxy was deceived into believing genocide was justice. At least this one time we chose differently. They left the medical bay through a side exit, avoiding the main corridors. Vera kept Mara close, moving through the ship's less traveled passages, heading toward her private quarters in the officers' section. They passed other crew members who nodded respectfully, seeing only a captain and her adopted daughter, nothing more. Vera's quarters were sparse but comfortable. A sleeping chamber, small workspace, and private facilities. Luxury by military standards. She'd never thought of them as particularly welcoming before, but watching Mara's eyes widen at the sight of a real bed, proper lighting, and temperature controls, she saw them differently. This is where you live? Mara asked. Where we live now, Vera corrected. You'll stay here with me. There's room enough for both of us. Mara approached the bed cautiously, as if afraid it might disappear. She touched the clean sheets with trembling fingers. It's soft. When was the last time you slept in a real bed? I don't remember. Before the ships came. Before everyone died. Mara climbed onto the bed, sitting cross-legged on the mattress. Why did you save me? You don't even know me. Vera sat beside her. 'Cause you deserve to be saved. Because the law that demands your death is wrong. Because looking at you, I saw what the purge truly was. Not justice, not protection, just murder dressed in official language. Everyone else thinks humans are monsters. Everyone else is afraid. Fear makes people cruel. Vera paused, choosing her next words carefully. Mara, what I did today, what Dr. Silvex did, we can't undo it. You're going to live as Vera, a Tyrellian Kresh hybrid. You can never tell anyone the truth about what you really are. Not ever. Do you understand? I'll be alone forever." The words cut deep because they were true. Mara would live, but she'd live in hiding, her real identity buried under lies, unable to ever fully trust anyone with the truth of her existence. The last human in the galaxy, pretending to be something else. "You won't be alone," Vera said. "You'll have me. I promise you that. Whatever comes, you'll have me." Mara leaned against her, exhausted and overwhelmed. Within minutes, the child was asleep, her breathing deep and even for perhaps the first time in months. Vera sat in the quiet darkness, feeling the weight of what she'd done. She'd betrayed her oath, violated the law, risked her position, her honor, her life, and she'd do it again without hesitation. Because some laws deserved to be broken, some orders deserved to be defied, and some lives were worth any price. Her calm chimed softly. A message from Queen Scyther's office requesting her presence at dawn for a private audience. Vera's blood went cold. Private audiences were rare, usually reserved for severe disciplinary matters or sensitive assignments. Had Thex found something? Had the Queen seen through the deception? Was this the beginning of the end? Vera looked down at Mara's sleeping face, peaceful for the first time, and made a silent vow. Whatever tomorrow brought, whatever the Queen demanded, she would protect this child. She would face execution if necessary. She would die before she let them take Mara. The hours until dawn would be long. Vera dimmed the lights and settled against the headboard, keeping watch over humanity's last daughter while the galaxy slept, unaware that its most absolute law had just been shattered by a guard captain's impossible choice. Dawn came too quickly. Vera left Mara sleeping in her quarters, protected by security locks keyed to her personal biometrics. No one could enter without her direct authorization. It was the safest place on the ship, or it had been, until Vera made it the hiding place for the galaxy's most wanted species. The walk to Queen Zethara's private chambers felt like a march to execution. Vera kept her expression neutral, her stride confident, but her minds raced through scenarios. What would she say if confronted? How could she protect Mara if the Queen had discovered the truth? Was there any defense that might save the child's life? The guards outside the Queen's chambers stepped aside without question. The doors opened onto a space Vera had only entered a handful of times in 15 years of service, the Queen's personal sanctuary where the crystalline architecture of the throne ship gave way to organic beauty. Living vines covered the walls, flowering with bioluminescent blooms. Water flowed through carved channels in the floor, creating a gentle symphony of sound. Queen Zethara stood at the far window gazing out at the stars. She didn't turn when Veyraya entered. "Your radiance." Veyraya dropped to one knee, assuming the position of formal respect. "Rise, Captain." The Queen's voice carried no anger, no accusation, just a strange weariness Vera had never heard before. "Come stand with me." Vera approached the window. Outside, the galaxy spread in infinite beauty. Billions of stars, countless worlds, an alliance of species bound by laws meant to protect them all. Laws Vera had shattered yesterday without hesitation. "I've ruled for 300 cycles," Queen Scythara said, "long enough to see civilizations rise and fall, long enough to make decisions that haunt me even now, long enough to understand that power and wisdom are not the same thing." Veyra remained silent, uncertain where this was leading. "The Purge laws." The Queen's bioluminescence dimmed. "I signed them, advocated for them, convinced other species leaders that humanity's extinction was necessary for our survival. The decay was real. I saw worlds consumed by it, populations corrupted, entire ecosystems collapsing. Something had to be done. Your radiance..." "Let me finish." The Queen finally turned, her ancient eyes meeting Vera's. "The decay affected perhaps 20% of the human population. Maybe less. We could have quarantined them, could have worked to cure it, could have found a solution that didn't require eliminating an entire species. But we were afraid. Fear is a powerful motivator, Captain. It makes genocide seem reasonable." Vera's hearts hammered. Was this a confession? A test? An elaborate trap? "I have many sources of information," the Queen continued. "Some official, some less so. Yesterday, Dr. Silvex submitted a genetic report for a Tyrellian Kresh hybrid child. A rare combination, but not impossible. The report was thorough, professionally documented, entirely convincing. Here it comes, Vera thought. The moment everything ends. It was also completely fabricated. The words hung in the air like a blade. Vera forced herself to maintain composure, to show no reaction, even as her world collapsed around her. I've known Dr. Sylvex for 60 cycles, Queen Zithara said. She's brilliant, dedicated, and constitutionally incapable of allowing unnecessary suffering. If she falsified a genetic report, it's because she believed the truth would result in an unjust death. Your Radiance, that child is human, pure human. Somehow she survived the purge. Somehow she found her way aboard my ship. And somehow she convinced my most decorated guard captain to commit treason to protect her. The Queen moved closer, studying Vera's face. Tell me I'm wrong, Captain. Tell me that child is truly a hybrid and I've made a terrible mistake. Vera met the Queen's gaze steadily. If this was the end, she wouldn't go out with lies. I can't tell you that, Your Radiance. Because you're not wrong. Then you admit it. You're harboring a human child aboard this vessel. You've falsified official records. You've violated the purge laws in the most direct way possible. Yes, Your Radiance. Do you understand the penalty for these crimes? Death. For myself, Dr. Sylvex and Mara. The Queen repeated the name softly. Such a human name. How old is she? 7 cycles. 7. The Queen turned back to the window. When the purge began, I told myself we were eliminating a threat. When I heard reports of human children being found and executed, I told myself it was necessary. Better to end the species completely than risk the decay spreading. I signed thousands of death warrants. Children, Captain, I authorized the deaths of countless children. The Queen's bioluminescence flickered erratically, displaying emotional turmoil Vera had never witnessed before. I thought I'd eliminated that guilt, convinced myself it was the price of leadership. But yesterday, when that child stood in my throne hall, dirty, frightened, so impossibly small, I saw clearly what I'd become. A ruler who'd chosen fear over mercy. A queen who'd turned genocide into policy. What will you do? Vera asked quietly. What I should have done cycles ago. Question the very foundation of the laws I helped create. Queen Zithara accessed a control panel on the wall, pulling up holographic displays of genetic data. These are the files Dr. Sylvex submitted. And these new displays appeared are the real scan results she buried in the medical system's deepest archives. She didn't delete them. Perhaps she thought they might matter someday. Evidence that at least one human child carried no decay markers. Proof that we killed innocents. The Queen studied the data for a long moment. I could execute all 3 of you. That would be justice under current law. But law and justice are not always the same thing, are they? No, Your Radiance. That child, Mara, what was she doing when you found her? Vera hesitated, then decided on absolute honesty. Hiding in Cargo Bay 7. She'd been living in the cryogenic storage sections, surviving alone for months. She cut her hand on a supply crate. That's how I discovered she was human. The blood gave her away. She's been aboard my ship for months? Yes. Alone. Terrified. A 7-year-old child navigating the most dangerous sections of this vessel just to survive. The Queen's voice hardened. What does that say about the galaxy we've created, Captain? What does it say about me? It says we're capable of terrible things when we're afraid, but also capable of change if we choose to be. Queen Zithara laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. You're either very brave or very foolish to lecture me on moral philosophy. I'm neither, Your Radiance. Just a guard who couldn't kill a child. No, you're much more than that. The Queen closed the holographic displays. Here's what's going to happen. Officially, Mara Vera is a Torellian Kresh hybrid, adopted by you 3 weeks ago. Her genetic records will remain as Dr. Sylvex filed them. No one will question this. I'll ensure Commander Thex is reassigned to a border outpost where his suspicious nature can be put to better use far from my ship.
Relief and confusion warred in Vera's chest.
You're letting her live? I'm letting her exist. There's a difference. The Queen's expression grew grave. She can never reveal her true nature. If the other species leaders discovered I'd harbored a human, they'd view it as betrayal of the highest order. War could result. The alliance could shatter, So Mara will live, but she'll live as a lie. She understands that, does she? Can she? She's 7 years old, Captain. Someday she'll want to know where she truly came from. Someday she'll want to connect with her heritage, her people, her history. What will you tell her when that day comes? The truth. That her people were brilliant and flawed, that they created beauty and horror, that they were exterminated for crimes committed by only some of them, that she survived because she was small enough to hide and brave enough to endure, that she's the last of her kind, and that matters. And if she asks why I let her species die while saving only her, Vera met the Queen's gaze. I'll tell her you were trying to protect your people, that you made the best decision you could with the information you had, that you can't save everyone, but you can choose to save someone, and that choice matters. Queen Zithara was silent for a long moment. You think very highly of me, Captain, more than I deserve. I think you're a ruler trying to do right in an impossible situation. Today you chose mercy. That's worth something, perhaps. The Queen moved to her desk, accessing official systems. I'm creating special documentation for Mara. Educational access, medical priority, guardian authorization, everything she'll need to grow up as normally as possible on this vessel. She'll have the same opportunities as any other child under my protection. Thank you, Your Radiance. Don't thank me yet. I'm also assigning you permanent guardianship responsibility. You'll train her, educate her, and ensure she never gives anyone reason to question her identity. If she fails, if she exposes herself, the consequences will fall on both of you. Do you accept those terms? Without hesitation. Good. The Queen finished the documentation and transferred it to Veyra's personal files. Now bring her here. If she's going to live on my ship as my subject, I should meet her properly. Vey returned to her quarters, finding Mara awake and huddled on the bed, eyes wide with fear. The child had probably spent the last hour terrified that Veyra wouldn't return, that she'd been abandoned again. It's okay, Veyra said, pulling Mara into a hug. Everything's okay. The Queen wants to meet you. She knows? Yes. But you're safe. I promise you're safe. They walked together through the ship's corridors, Mara's hand clasped tight in Veyra's. This time, the journey felt different. Not a walk to execution, but something else. Something like hope. The Queen's chambers seemed less intimidating now. Queen Cythera had arranged cushions on the floor in a semicircle, creating an informal space that felt almost welcoming. She gestured for them to sit. Mara sat carefully, her posture perfect, her hands folded in her lap. A child who'd learned young that survival sometimes meant being invisible. Hello, Mara, the Queen said gently. I understand you've had quite an adventure. Mara glanced at Veyra, then back to the Queen. Yes, Your Radiance. Are you settling in well with Captain Veyra? She's been very kind to me. I'm glad. Mara, I need you to understand something very important. Your existence is a secret that must be protected. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because the galaxy isn't ready to accept what you are. Do you understand? I'm human, Mara said quietly. And humans are supposed to be dead. Yes, but you're not dead. You're here, alive, and you deserve to remain that way. So you'll live as Mara Veyra, a hybrid child under Captain Veyra's guardianship. You'll attend school, make friends, grow up, but you can never tell anyone your real species. Can you do that? I've been hiding since the ships came. I know how to keep secrets. The simple statement carried such weight. Queen Nithara's bioluminescence dimmed with what might have been shame. You shouldn't have had to learn that at 7 years old. But since you have, I'm going to ask you to continue. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who protected you. Captain Veyra and Dr. Silvex risked their lives to save yours. If you're discovered, they'll die alongside you. Do you understand the responsibility that places on you? Mara's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. I won't tell. I'll be whoever you need me to be. I'll be so careful no one will ever know. I promise. Good. Then welcome to my ship, Mara Veyra. Welcome to your new life. The Queen reached out, and Mara took her hand. For a moment, the three of them sat in silence. A queen who'd ordered genocide, a guard who'd committed treason, and a human child who'd survived the impossible. An unlikely alliance built on the ruins of absolute law? Your Radiance, Veyra said carefully. May I ask something? You may? Why?
Why are you doing this? You could have enforced the law.
It would have been easier, safer. Why risk everything for one child? Queen Sci-Fi looked at Mara, studying the girl's tear-stained face, her small hands, her brave eyes that had seen too much horror for her age. Because 300 cycles of ruling have taught me that laws serve people, not the other way around. Because I've made enough mistakes to recognize when I'm being given a chance at redemption. Because looking at this child, I see clearly what the purge really was. Not protection, but murder dressed in fear. The Queen's voice softened. And because if I can't save the thousands I killed, perhaps I can save this one. Perhaps that's not enough. But it's something. Mara spoke, her voice small but clear. My mom used to say that saving one life doesn't make up for taking others. But it still matters. Each life is its own complete universe, and saving one universe is still worth everything. The Queen's bioluminescence brightened, then dimmed again. Your mother was wise. What was her name? Sarah. Dr. Stanley. Sarah Chen. She was a botanist. She studied how to make plants grow in different atmospheres. Mara's voice wavered. She was growing food for the colony when the ships came. She was trying to save people. I'm sorry she didn't survive to continue that work. Me too. Mara wiped her eyes. But she taught me things before she died. About being brave.
About surviving. About how to find hope even when everything's terrible.
I try to remember her lessons. Vera felt her own eyes burning. This child had been carrying so much weight, hiding so much grief, and she'd never complained, never demanded anything, never asked for more than the chance to live. You're remarkably strong, Queen Scythara said. Stronger than many warriors I've known. That strength will serve you well in the years to come. They talked longer, establishing the foundations of Mara's new life. Educational placement, dietary requirements, social integration protocols, the practical details of creating an identity from nothing, of hiding humanity's last daughter in plain sight. Finally, the Queen dismissed them. As Vera and Mara walked back toward their quarters, the child suddenly pulled Vera to a stop in an empty corridor. Thank you, Mara said, for not killing me, for lying to the Queen, for being willing to die to keep me safe. No one's protected me like that since my parents. I don't know how to... Her composure finally cracked, and she buried her face against Vera's side, sobbing. Vera knelt down, wrapping her arms around the child. You don't have to thank me. You don't have to be strong every moment. You're safe now. You can cry. You can be scared. You can be a child. I'll keep you safe. But for how long? Eventually someone will figure it out. Eventually something will go wrong. Maybe. Or maybe you'll live a full life, grow up, become someone amazing. Maybe you'll prove that humanity deserved better than extinction. Maybe you'll be the evidence that the purge was wrong. Vera pulled back, meeting Mara's eyes. Or maybe we'll be discovered tomorrow and everything will end badly. But that's tomorrow. Today you're alive. Today you're safe. That's enough. Is it? Is it really enough? Vera thought of the thousands of human children who died in the purge. The countless lives erased, the culture destroyed, the potential eliminated. Could saving one child balance against that ocean of loss? Could defying the law for one life justify the risk to everyone who'd helped? It has to be, Vera said finally, because it's all we have. It's what we chose, and I don't regret it. Mara leaned against her again, exhausted by emotion. I won't let you down. I'll be perfect. I'll never make mistakes. I'll be so good that no one ever suspects. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. Careful, yes, but still you. Don't lose yourself trying to hide what you are. The galaxy already killed humanity once. Don't let it kill you again by forcing you to become someone else entirely. They walked the rest of the way in comfortable silence. When they reached Vera's quarters, Mara climbed immediately onto the bed, burrowing into the blankets like she was building a nest. Can I ask you something? Mara's voice came muffled from the blankets. Anything. Do you think there are others? Other humans who survived? Vera considered lying, protecting the child from false hope. But Mara deserved honesty. I don't know. The purge was thorough, but the galaxy is vast. Maybe somewhere, someone else is hiding too. Maybe someday you'll meet them. And if I'm really alone, if I'm the last one forever, then you carry the memory of your entire species. You become the keeper of human stories, human dreams, human potential. It's a heavy burden for one person, especially someone so young. But if anyone can carry it, I think you can. Mara emerged from the blankets, her face thoughtful. My mom told me stories about Earth before the colonies, about oceans and mountains and cities with millions of people. She said humans could do terrible things, but beautiful things too. We made art and music and discovered how the universe worked. We were explorers and dreamers and fighters. Tell me one of those stories, Vera said. So Mara did. She told stories her mother had told her, passed down from generation to generation of humanity. Tales of ancient heroes and modern pioneers, of tragedies and triumphs, of a species that had reached for the stars and found both wonder and destruction waiting there. Vera listened, recording every word in her perfect military memory. If Mara truly was the last human, then these stories needed to be preserved. Someday, when the galaxy was ready, when enough time had passed and fear had faded, maybe someone would want to know what humanity had been before it was erased. Days turned to weeks. Mara enrolled in educational programs, mixing with other children aboard the ship. She was quiet, careful, but gradually she began to relax, began to trust that she could exist without being hunted. Vera watched her adapt with a mixture of pride and sorrow. The child was brilliant, absorbing information with remarkable speed. She excelled in botany, her mother's legacy, and showed unexpected talent in mathematics and strategic thinking. She made friends cautiously, never getting too close, always maintaining the careful distance of someone guarding a terrible secret. Commander Thex was reassigned as the Queen had promised, sent to oversee border security on a remote outpost. His replacement, Commander Yella, was efficient and professional, showing no particular interest in anyone's background or origins. Life aboard the celestial carrier settled into a new rhythm, but Vera never forgot what Mara truly was. Never forgot the risk they all carried. She saw it in Dr. Silvex's careful glances whenever Mara came for medical checkups. Saw it in Queen Zithara's subtle attention whenever Mara was present at public functions. They were all complicit now, all bound together by the choice they'd made. 3 months after that first terrible day in Cargo Bay 7, Vera found Mara sitting by one of the observation windows, staring out at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" Vera asked, settling beside her. "Earth. I've been studying it in history classes. They teach us that it was corrupted, that the decay started there, that it had to be cleansed." Mara's voice was carefully neutral. "They don't mention all the people who died, just that humanity was eliminated for the greater good. History is written by survivors," Vera said quietly. "And we're not always honest about what we've done. Will anyone ever know the truth? About the purge? About what really happened? Maybe. When enough time has passed that fear doesn't control us anymore." Mara pressed her hand against the window. Small fingers splayed against the transparent barrier between her and infinite space. "I'm the only one who remembers them. My parents, my colony, everyone who died. If I forget, if I stop caring, then they're really gone forever." "Then don't forget," Vera said. "Remember, live well enough for all of them. It's not fair that this burden falls on you, but life rarely is. The question isn't whether the burden is fair. It's what you'll do with it. I'm going to study biology," Mara said suddenly. "Like my mom, I'm going to learn everything I can about genetics and evolution and how life adapts. And someday, I'm going to prove that humans didn't deserve to die. I'm going to find a way to make the galaxy see that we were worth saving." "That's a big goal for someone so young." "I have time. You made sure I have time." Mara turned to look at Vera, her eyes bright with determination. "I won't waste it, I promise you that. Every day I'm alive is a day the purge failed. Every moment I exist is proof that your choice mattered." "I won't let you regret saving me." Vera pulled the child into a hug, this small human who'd survived the impossible and refused to be broken by it. "I could never regret saving you. Not in 1,000 lifetimes." They sat together at the window, watching the stars drift past. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued its existence, unaware that humanity's last daughter lived and breathed and dreamed aboard the celestial carrier. Unaware that 3 people had defied absolute law to give one child a chance at life. The purge had tried to eliminate humanity completely. But in saving Mara, they'd proven something crucial. That compassion could outweigh fear. That individual choice could challenge absolute law. That one life mattered enough to risk everything. Mara would grow up aboard this ship, hiding in plain sight, carrying the weight of an entire species on her small shoulders. She would study and learn and become someone remarkable. And perhaps someday, when she was grown and the galaxy had changed, she would step forward and reveal what she truly was. But that was tomorrow. Today she was simply Mara Vera, a child under Vera's protection, living proof that the choice to save one life, just one life, could be the most important decision anyone ever made. The stars continued their eternal dance, and humanity's last daughter watched them shine, alive against all odds, protected by a guardian who'd chosen compassion over duty, mercy over law, and love over fear. In the end, that choice was everything.